As many of you are well aware, Alyssa Milano was considered to be one of the central members of the MeToo movement, really rising to prominence with the hearings of Brett Kavanaugh with her advocacy of #BelieveAllWomen. Unfortunately, though, Alyssa Milano has come under a lot of fire in the past couple of days with her complete radio silence over the recent Tara Reade sexual assault allegations against Joe Biden, who she has endorsed, leading a lot of people to criticize her, saying that she's being hypocritical. Well, Alyssa Milano has finally come forward and, sort of given her response explaining why she's been silent on the Tara Reade sexual assault allegation. So let's take a listen to what she has to say. Then we're going to come back and talk about it.
I believe that even though we should believe women, and that is an important thing, and what that statement really means is, like, for so long the go-to has been not to believe them. So really we have to sort of societally change that mindset to believing women. But that does not mean at the expense of not, giving men their due process and investigating situations.
I like that.
And giving, it's got to be fair in both directions.
Okay.
So, I've been very vocal about Biden and my support for him. I've known him for a long time, and I did do my due diligence because part of it was that, and the article that sort of stood out to me was that Time's Up decided not to take the case. And so,
that was important to you. That meant, well, maybe there's more to this story here.
Right. I did my work, and I spoke to Time's Up, and I just don't feel comfortable throwing away a decent man that I've known for 15 years.
Yep.
In this time of complete chaos without there being a thorough investigation.
Yep.
I'm sure that mainstream media would be jumping all over this as well if
we weren't in a pandemic. If there was more credible, if there was evidence
if they found more evidence or through their investigation. So I'm just kind of staying quiet about it. And because I'm staying quiet about it,
you were getting dragged on Twitter by Bernie bros.
Right. They're calling me hypocritical for and saying that I'm a fake feminist and all of this stuff.
So as this story has evolved, it has become at this point a lot more than just accusations against Joe Biden or concerns about Alyssa Milano. At this point, we are talking about the credibility of the Me Too movement itself. You just heard there Andy Cohen, who was the one interviewing Alyssa Milano, dismissing the concerns of people who are worried about women coming forward against sexual assault allegations, dismissing those people's concerns as, oh, they're just Bernie bros. We don't have to listen to them. You just saw here, in fact, this is Crystal Ball tweeted out about this, saying, incredible, Alyssa Milano says she assumes that the mainstream media would cover Tara Reade if her claims were credible and that we have to find balance in the Me Too movement and believe all women. I don't remember those caveats before. And then Alyssa Milano down here, let me make it bigger for you, saying, Bernie supporter, right? As if people being concerned about sexual assault allegations, people who are interested in making sure that women have a voice in our society, as if those people are just automatically Bernie supporters so we don't have to listen to them. The idea that coming forward, that wanting to protect women is itself political. And so, if you don't agree with the political, sort of views of the person being, who might benefit from such accusations, then we don't have to listen to the accusations themselves. This is actually incredibly disgusting. And guys, we all know someone who has been sexually assaulted or some kind of sexual victimization in some way, whether a man or a woman, right? We all know so many people like this because it's so common. And so for now, the, sort of retort of Joe Biden supporters is to say, oh, well, you're just a Bernie supporter. We don't have to listen to you. That damages the entire credibility of the movement, because what's going to happen next time? Next time, there's going to be an accusation against someone, and then they're just going to be able to turn around and say, oh, this is just political. This is just window dressing. We don't have to listen to you. And they're going to turn around and say, well, what did you do when Joe Biden was accused? You didn't even listen. You didn't even investigate. Because her central argument here is, oh, well, if the mainstream media was covering it, then her claims would be much more credible. As if that's the barometer of how we know when something is credible. But guys, here's the thing though. In that same interview, she turns around and says, well, look, I think that there should be a thorough investigation, and if more evidence comes out, then we will listen. But guys, here's the thing. If the media isn't covering it, then there won't ever be a time when more evidence comes out. Because guys, all I want is for her to be listened to. All I want is for the media to cover it. Because if those claims are true, Joe Biden is not qualified to be president. He's not qualified to even run for president, morally. He doesn't have the moral character to run for president if those accusations are true. And so, yeah, I want it to be vetted. I want it to be looked into, but that's not what's happening. In fact, if you go right here, you can search it. Let's search it together, guys. Let's type in Tara Reade and see what comes up. Let's see here. Oh, no results. Okay, well, that's just CNN. So let's see what happens if you search up the New York Times. So I did this earlier today, so you can see it in history. But you can see here, you search it up. And the most, okay, so year 2000, year 2001, but those aren't even about Tara Reade. This is just stuff that Tara Parker, and then Tara Sussman, Tara. I looked at that. That's from 1989. It's not even related. Basically, no major news source is even covering it. So how does Alyssa Milano think that we are actually going to be able to get evidence for the accusation itself? The only credible sort of legitimate position that she can take is for her to call on the journalist of the mainstream media to investigate this case, write stories, and let's figure out what happened. Because guys, Republicans, as soon as the general election turns around, they're not going to be silent about this. In fact, a clip ran on Fox News just, I think, 2 days ago talking about this. Now, it wasn't very long. It was very quick, but they already are talking about this on Fox News. And if you go to Republican outlets, they're also talking about this, because at this point, a lot of people do think that Joe Biden is going to be the Democratic nominee, and it is in their political interest to protect Donald Trump, and so they just want to air this allegation. Because what does that do? It neutralizes the criticisms of Donald Trump for those very same crimes. Because if a Democrat has been accused of the exact same things that the Republican is, then the Democrat can't accuse Donald Trump of those things which he is, almost very certainly guilty of, and which he bragging about grabbing women by the pussy. The idea that this is just something we can dismiss is completely absurd. And now I want to show you some other tweets about this. So Brianna Joy Gray had a really good response here, saying, in response to Alyssa Milano's sort of tweet, she tweeted out the video here saying, I explained my silence on the allegations of Joe Biden in this clip. I am still endorsing Joe Biden. Listen here and find out why. Brianna Joy Gray responding here, this is revolting, and Andy, consider not referring to women expressing concern over sexual assault allegation as Bernie bros. I definitely agree with that there. And then also here, Shoe on Head had a pretty good response here saying, Time's Up refused to help her. Yeah, this means there's probably something more to this. This is correct in the way you don't think it is. The mainstream media would be reporting more on this if there was something to this. Oh my God, I'm screaming. I love her. She's really funny. But guys, this is the point here. If we want the MeToo movement to be credible, the only consistent response you can make is to say, I want these claims to be investigated. I want to find out what happened. It is not to say, okay, well, I investigated this by, doing a couple Google searches, therefore nobody should talk about this. That is not the claim which we can make. That is not the consistent stance if we want to believe all women. Guys, we all know people who who have confided in you and told you these terrible things that have happened to them, and you get really upset, you get really angry, and you begin to, it changes your outlook on some of these political disputes that are happening out there. And I just wish that we could be honest and be consistent about this, because this thing discredits not just the next time it happens in a sort of a political sphere and they discredit you. It discredits your friend who confides in you that they were hurt. And anyway, I'm getting emotional about it. It really upsets me. It really just upsets me. But the other thing I want to talk about here is, you know, I mentioned this previously in another video, but remember, guys, remember the backlash theory, the thing that Julian Assange, Slavoj Žižek came forward and talked about how if Donald Trump won, you know, if Donald Trump had won the election against Hillary Clinton, this was sort of before the election, that what that would mean would be that there'd be some massive left-wing backlash against Donald Trump, and that left-wing people would sweep into power and they'd stay into power forever. It was kind of the backlash theory that some people on the left were espousing. Guys, clearly that's not what happened. Like, just the facts are against that view at this point. What seems to have happened is that a bunch of Democrats became a bunch of little cowards who weren't willing to stand up for their values, weren't willing to stand up for anything, and so are willing to put forward, you know, someone accused of sexual assault, someone with, I mean, I don't know that he has dementia technically, but he definitely seems to have something. He's not as sharp as he was. I mean, he, you know, right, like, I'm not a doctor, but he's definitely not very sharp. I mean, something is wrong with him. You see his interviews. It's like, what is going on? You know, you look at clips of Joe Biden from even just 3 or 4 years ago, and he was so much sharper. He just, like, you could tell that he had a purpose, that he knew what he was saying when he was talking, in a way that you just don't see that from Joe Biden nowadays. That we're willing to put forward someone like that because we're so concerned about electability and, you know, beating Donald Trump, that we have to put forward a moderate, we have to put forward a corporate centrist. That's the only way to win. Guys, we just became a bunch of cowards because we're so afraid of Donald Trump that we're not willing to actually stand up for the things that we claim to believe in. And it disgusts me. Actually, I take that back. I'm not quite disgusted. I'm disappointed. I'm sad. I'm disappointed in Alyssa Milano because I know in her heart she can do better. I know in her heart that she wants to be a good person, that she wants to believe in the right things. But she's so afraid of Donald Trump that she can't actually stand up for the things that she thinks are good. And, you know, so then she ends up in a situation where she has to kind of, you know, do mental gymnastics in order to defend Joe Biden because she's so worried about Donald Trump. We're all just a bunch of sniveling cowards now because of Donald Trump, because of Orange Man Bad syndrome. Anyway, that's the video. If you liked it, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button and consider subscribing. Thanks.